webinar on AI revolution in hydrogen value chain. Indian energy skill development is continuously taking latest topics for knowledge sharing sessions. We are training and providing consultancy to the evolving energy sector. We are currently have online and offsite programs on hydrogen, EV, sustainability, carbon market, biofuel, and many more. As we know, hydrogen is rapidly evolving as a future possibility for clean energy transition. At the same time, artificial intelligence is transforming how we design and operate complex energy systems. When we bring these two together, we unlock powerful opportunities. Would like to inform that ISD has updated its signature program, Hydrogen Technology Application and Economics, with a new module on hydrogen and role of AI. Our speakers today will discuss how AI is helping in hydrogen value chain. Today we have our guest speaker Mr. Sanjay Kaul and Mr. Santosh Gurunath. Mr. Sanjay Kaul is subject matter expert in energy, sustainability, infrastructure, transportation. He is a fellow member of Energy Institute UK, has established universities like University of Petroleum and Energy Studies, Indian School of Petroleum, University of Technology and Management Shillong, Petronet LNG Academy Kochi. He has also worked with companies like Shell, Chevron, consulting firms like Deloitte, PwC in his initial years. And we have another guest speaker, Mr. Santosh Gurunath, who is a seasoned professional with more than 13 years of experience across different sectors within the energy landscape: oil and gas, solar energy, EV, infrastructure, and hydrogen. He has spent most of his career across the industry with Shell, McKinsey, and BCG. He is a chemical engineer and has degree from Calicut and TU Delft, Netherlands. He has founded Imagine in 2019 and has executed more than 100 projects across rooftop solar, EV charging, and hydrogen in Netherlands, across India. The session will be followed by question and answers, and I would request you, everybody, to post your question in chat box. I invite Mr. Kaul to start the session.
Good afternoon, all participants, and wonderful opportunity to talk to new generation professionals interested in the hydrogen future. I also welcome my co-panelist, Mr. Gurunath, who's a practitioner, unlike an academician and a person who's more into R&D. So we have the benefit of his practical experience today. The way we are going to tackle the next 45 minutes is to look at AI application and the role it is playing, it is likely to play in terms of various angles. One is, of course, is the primary angle from climate change perspective, because we know that hydrogen is playing or likely to play a bigger pivotal role in energy transition. So a lot of things get facilitated because of AI in the energy transition part. The other part is the hydrocarbon value chain itself, wherein from R&D to design to production, storage, transmission, transportation, blending, conversion, wherever across the value chain hydrogen is being handled, how AI is affecting that, is likely to affect that, and what it is going to facilitate more than what already is. The other part is the business part, who pays for it, why the geopolitics part of it, and the regulatory part of it, the commercial part of it. So we need to examine all of that in the light of AI, that how it is going. Surprisingly, the topic we are discussing of AI, the way it affects hydrogen, is not something which is only affecting hydrogen. it just makes it more exciting because hydrogen is new and part of a sort of a climate and a planet level geopolitics level uh, game. But at the same time, um, AI is revolutionizing the energy industry and many other industries, whether it is pharma or uh, medicine to everything. So, what makes it exciting for hydrogen is that when you deal with a new industry, it's also a little amusing to call it a new industry. Hydrogen is industries as old as the oil and gas industry or the coal industry. I mean, the first electrolyzer uh, was invented and used in early 19th century. It's just that hydrocarbon and fossil fuels just sort of took over hydrogen, and there was no climate agenda at that time to encourage it. But because it is new and it is being adopted as a new technology, as a new fuel, uh, AI's timing of becoming so, as I was saying, that the convergence of AI and hydrogen, both new, exciting, and full of possibilities, and the conversion of the microprocessor based systems maturity, whether it's computing or language or the cloud technology or the or heavy data centers, heavy computational and storage facilities being available, though they also require their energy guzzlers. All of this coming together is very exciting. That not only hydrogen offers you energy transition route, but also it's capable of powering the very technology which requires this energy transition. So, very exciting to be with Gurunath in this, and I just wanted to give an overview first before I get to the boring PowerPoint presentation, which normally assist us in understanding a subject in a structured way. And in between the presentation, I will be requesting Santosh to come in, especially at the production stage and others, where he has very live consulting and practical experience. He tracks the world for whatever is latest and practical, which is happening on the ground. So I would request him to sort of uh, pause me to get in wherever he thinks that he can offer the practical aspect of it. So going over to the presentation. So interestingly, uh, instead of AI application, we are calling it a AI revolution. Whenever you use the word revolution, it is indeed a revolution because nobody really knows to what extent it will go. That's a very typicality of a revolution, that simultaneously on multitudes of fronts in many dimensions and directions, a particular thing sort of percolates around an ecosystem, and you really can't predict the outcome, which is always disproportionate and exponential of how things going to happen. So I think it's an AI revolution because hydrogen itself is going to be a revolution in the way it is going to displace a lot of geopolitical, commercial, regulatory, technical uh, ecosystems which currently operates in the world. So we are not going to spend uh, very expert level time on these various topics, whether what is AI or relevance of AI in hydrogen value chain, etc. But what we will do is we will try and share with you what are these things conveying to us, both in terms of understanding and in terms of what is likely to do, and how we can chart our own role towards that, which is relevant to the people who have dialed in and would be. But for better understanding, deeper understanding, I would recommend that you go through the certification program, which has this in much detail and many other things in the in the hydrogen value chain. So just to place AI properly, you know, this is sort of the ecosystem from where the AI application is there, and it is there in each of the component you see. So I'm not going to labor too much. Much of it you are already aware that we have technologies on one front, various renewable energies on the other. We have a shifting, which is an energy transition stage from fossil fuels to sustainable technologies. We have this green, gray, turquoise, all sorts of categories of hydrogen. And of course, there are global goals and which are being sort of hastened by deforestation, global warming, climate change, and the deadlines are being crossed, the limits are being crossed around the world. So, in this ecosystem, AI does come as a force multiplier. That if I have only solar power or wind energy limited or abundant at a particular time, how AI can help me optimize that I store it in making hydrogen, charging, storing it in my fuel cells, and that the fuel cells does the work when the solar power and wind energy is not available. So these kind of things, and that's what takes us to energy transition. Uh, and then we are able to meet the regulations and global goals with it, or actually trade and commercialize these aspects in terms of projects and enterprise value. So we must understand the AI and its implication on hydrogen on this ecosystem, which is like a 30,000 feet view. But it's important to understand that this is the ecosystem we are talking about. And of course, most of you can read and understand about AI, but sometimes the differentiation between AI and machine learning or deep learning or NLP and all the components of it becomes confusing. And one of the aspects could be stronger in a particular in a leak detection system, or in an optimization process, the computing part and the kind of machine learning the computing can bring could be confusing, that one aspect is stronger than the others. But overall, if there are people who have still not clear about AI, if I have to give a completely layman understanding of what AI is that when you put all the machines together in whatever layering it needs to be done in terms of the technologies, all the microprocessor based machines together in a layered form, where it can then do much more exponentially than the sum total of all what they can do on their own. We are talking about AI. That's the layman understanding, that if you put everything together, and if that everything together can do much more than the sum total of that, that means it's now performing over and above what that combination is doing. And uh, because much of that is common even without AI, replacing human effort, decision making, that you can even do with a simple program also, go no go kind of a thing. So we cannot interpret that as AI. So just to understand, a combination of all that doing much more than the sum total is where how we should AI. And what it can, while what you can put together often is limited, what happens as a result of that is quite unlimited. So while the combination of what you are putting together is a little bit organic, that okay, chip, more powerful chip, less size. But what you can then do by putting few chips together, putting them in a box, putting machine learning there, NLP there in terms of programming, then what you can do with it is quite inorganic. So AI has this, just to make sure that I pause here and clarify about AI, is important, because there is a lot of things in the name of AI which is going on, and it's important for the participants to understand what it is. In terms of actual applicability, there is a lot of thing an hydrogen value chain can do. The beauty here is that AI can manage both the application and the chain simultaneously. It is like saying that I use petrol in my car, but I am finding AI which can manage. It is something, the same kind of revolution we had when we had this Internet of Things. So it's like an Internet of Things with a mind of its own. So it's like saying that my refinery output or my crude sourcing will get affected as the cars are getting sold. It is that powerful. So while hydrogen is used for refining, ammonia production, fuel cells, energy storage, synthetic fuels, energy generation, even running combustion engines, you can think of hundreds of uses. And of course, then it has its own production design. Uh, uh, but AI can control both sides of it. Uh, it can substitute fuel, uh, take care of production profiles, even design that ab initio. So that's the power of it. And because of this conversion of AI being new and hydrogen being new, it's possible today from R&D stage to the application stage. So that's the powerful part of it. So if I was forced, okay, what are the four things uh, which AI can do best? Or let me phrase it the other way around. What is that you should never try to do without AI? Then these are the four things, because it can cut through a lot of decision making which is based on facts, data, and other things. It can save you testing 6,000 metals, metal compounds, which one of them are top rated ones in terms of if you want to use a catalyst in your electrolyzer, which has actually happened. That it is AI which came out with five top compounds, and the top two are now commercially being used. Otherwise, to test about 6,000 possible permutations and simulate them would have been impossible and would have taken decades to do it. Monitoring, of course, we are looking at uh, uh, a $6 price falling to 4 to 3, and then eventually, unless it is $1 a kilo, it would not compete. So, in order to do that, your monitoring has to be razor sharp in terms of what gets produced, when, what it gets used to, what is the commercial viability of that, and at what cost it gets produced, and how safe it is. So AI can do all that simultaneously and much better, and then learn from how it has done. So that way, I think it's a very strong part of it. And of course, commercialization would mean that all the techno commercial regulatory, all the compliances, the trade data, the audit data, how it is that get managed. Because for years to come now, for the next 10 years, there is a lot of reporting, regulatory, and commercial aspects where there will be a lot of uncertainty, volatility, uh, differences, regimes change in terms of now you were operating in this regime, you were operating these incentives, they were operating that prices. So how do you manage all those uncertainties? So AI is very good in terms of that, and it can give you a lot of predictive models where you can really optimize even your ROIs and RORs. So these are the four major things I would say one shouldn't even think about. I can even say R&D or design part, but that's more application based. I'm just saying from a business perspective, if I have to do these things, I should look for AI based solutions. So we get to the practical side of things, that it's not like we are starting new. There are already off the shelf uh, Santosh could tell you far more about it. He himself can offer you, products. He can even customize existing products for you, and many such agencies exist. So it's not like one is starting afresh in this area. There is a lot of off the shelf ready AI applications available for all the value chain aspects of hydrogen, from production to utilization. And some of those are listed. I am sure that ISD would have this presentation loaded on its website, and all the people who have dialed in can actually download this and go it in a little more detail. But the point to note is that it is not like it's at experimental stage. It is at a lot of parameters are known, well documented. Today, from a open internet site, you can download a viability checklist of a particular hydrogen project, and as long as you can fill it accurately, it will give you a viability model. So um, the world has traveled quite a lot in the last 5 years, with almost 40 plus countries having a policy. Our own more than 17 states in our own country have either a hydrogen policy or a draft one ready, already implemented. So one is that we have a national policy. So a lot of water has flown, both in terms of technology, policy, etc., to to have become a business or an industry in this area, and off the shelf products are available. So we sort of start with the value chain aspects on it. And of course, Santosh is an expert in terms of actually telling you the practical side of it. But I have listed for you, for the sake of your reference, um some of the aspects in which um, the of that particular aspect of the value chain, where AI can make a prominent part. As you know, that design itself is very advanced in terms of IT tools. So any kind of design today is possible through connected systems. It can You can have 24-hour data centers across the globe, which can continuously design, whether it's an offshore platform to a spaceship. So there is a lot of design tools currently available, and there are agencies and solutions where such tools could be customized with the help of AI. You want to design a pipeline, there is a very advanced software is available, and there is an AI application available to tell that software that it is going to be a hydrogen pipeline, not a gas pipeline or a water pipeline or a this pipeline. So it will take into account automatically the corrosion, the all the parameters which are more applicable to hydrogen, and use that same software to design actually a hydrogen pipeline instead of a normal hydrocarbon or any other pipeline. So there is an opportunity available that AI can fill in that gap, where you have an existing technology or a design tool, or design parameters. You can give different ones, whether it is pressure, temperature, or whatever. And same is the case for construction. Construction also is very, very advanced. You know that the today's wonders of the world are the bridges and the complex platforms and the aircraft carriers and whatever you may have. That each of these projects whether it's the NEOM project in Saudi Arabia, which is completely different in every other way you can perceive a particular design or a construction project. So again, the beauty of AI application in such projects is that it can leapfrog from one simulation to other while the project is happening. So in a given that in a gigafactory, suddenly you find that you can bring in imported hydrogen from the port instead of only producing it while the project is happening. You can feature that, or suddenly you can use seawater for the electrolyzer. The entire mechanics can change, and while the project is happening, you can make those alterations, which is quite exciting. That means it can make the project management as dynamic as hydrogen and the current technologies are while the project is happening. It is not as easy as it sounds, but the AI, because its processing is so fast, so there is not much decision time you need. It's not like you have to wait 3 months till all the things are considered before you take that switch, kind of a thing, or that option, you change that option. So what it does is that while the project management is dynamic, its changes are also dynamic as the whether it's supply, material, technology, all that is happening, because a project takes 6 months to 3 years for completion, and a lot gets changed, even including geopolitics. I mean, an oil price today can change the entire commercial dynamics of a project. So, but AI can take into account that once you have set the parameter, you can the dynamics of change, or if you want to introduce another change, you can manage your project better. I think production, I would request Santosh. I have these basic things, but production is something which is the heart of hydrogen industry, and somebody who has got a very practical knowledge, who's tracking the world, I will request Santosh. I can talk about all these four elements which you can see on the screen, but at this stage, I would like the monotony to be broken by Santosh to give some practical aspects of the production.
Sure, call. So talking about production, right? And I think Sanjay has talked a lot about some of the examples where AI can come into play, right? So I'll zoom in on one or two specific examples. Now, if you look at production of green hydrogen, and green hydrogen, the definition of green hydrogen itself is very much political in nature rather than set in stone, right? I mean, there are different standards which govern what you call green hydrogen, but for our understanding, for broadly for this discussion, hydrogen which is produced from electrolysis using renewable energy, right? Now, that sounds very straightforward, because there's a lot of renewable energy which is already being installed. There is solar, there is wind, there is battery energy storage system. But then when you kind of detail it out and go into the specifics, there are challenges. And why there are challenges is because a lot of these standards actually mandate you to match the renewable energy production and the electrolysis operation at the same time, right? On an hourly basis in some countries, or on a monthly kind of basis in certain geographies. Now, what happens in that scenario? Let's say we are talking about an hourly basis, which is majority of the regulations in Europe, is that it is very kind of challenging to let's say ramp up and ramp down your electrolyzer as an after effect of the weather changes, right? I mean, you can have a cloud cover coming in, you can have, let's say, the wind immediately stopping. So in this kind of a scenario, one of the problems what it faces is that, let's say, your electrolyzer needs to be ramped up, ramped down very frequently, which results in both production losses as well as efficiency losses, right? And these can be significant, right, when you kind of look at it, because these processes are expensive. The capex is expensive. So where does AI come into play, right? So AI, if you look at it, has advanced significantly to very accurately predict the weather patterns, right? And very accurately predict the weather patterns in the sense that wherever that renewable energy is being produced, what kind of, what will be the let's say next half an hour, next 1 hour, next 2 hours, let's say capacity utilization factor of your solar energy, how much wind energy will be produced, right? And then that is being used. For example, there is a project, a pilot project which was done in UK, where let's say such a system was installed, right? Variable renewable energy directly coupled with hydrogen production, and an AI layer was added in, which predicted very accurate weather and cloud patterns, and that gave an input much in advance to the control systems at an electrolyzer level, and to kind of ramp up its production and ramp down accordingly, right? So in that sense, let's say you're not reacting after the fact, but you are reacting tandemly, right? I mean, you know in advance what you need to do with your electrolyzer, right? And the same thing is with storage, right? You have a hydrogen storage also, in case it's an export oriented kind of project where hydrogen needs to be stored and converted and exported somewhere else, or kind of transported somewhere else. Then you also take into account how much of your hydrogen storage is already filled, right? And then potentially you can also have a secondary storage. I mean, for example, where and then you can maintain with the same plant, you can maintain different ledgers where on one of the storages you use it purely for completely matched, let's say hourly matched pattern of renewable energy and electrolyzer production. And in some, you don't use an hourly match, but a monthly matched. For example, the Indian green hydrogen definition allows you for monthly matching of your renewable energy, whereas European or RFNBO standards requires you for hourly matching. So you can have two different ledgers with the same plant, and then you can actually prove that, right, with respect to some of the certifications also coming in. So when you do this, right, I mean, it helps you in two three ways. I mean, one. I mean, of course, it increases the utilization factor of your electrolyzers. That reduces the overall cost, right? I mean, you can actually save up to, I mean, close to about 15 to 20% in terms of the total cost of or levelized cost of hydrogen can be saved if you kind of take this approach. And second, it helps you in regulatory aspects as well. In terms of certifications, you are not producing let's say non-compliant hydrogen, and then later you have a problem with respect to trust and sending the hydrogen for a certain application. So this is a very interesting and very important application. In fact, to be honest, most of the plants of green hydrogen which will be built on based of variable renewable energy cannot be done without using AI as a layer, right? I mean, you cannot. I mean, you cannot be dependent on weather patterns or weather prediction of let's say of your IMD or in general to kind of operate your electrolyzers, because that will be very slow and that will result in a lot of losses both on the efficiency side and on the production side, right? So this AI layer is going to play a very interesting role. The second part, very shortly before I hand it over to Sanjay to move on to the next slide, is in a number of locations, right? I mean, not yet in India, but in a number of locations here, renewable energy pricing is also dynamic in nature, right? And when I say dynamic in nature, let's say whenever there's an excess of renewable energy, too much renewable energy, then the market price of hydrogen, let's say electricity, is negative, right? So what you want to do in certain some of these regions, you want to produce or you want to run your electrolyzer to the maximum when your electricity prices are actually negative, because then your cost of hydrogen is very low, right? I mean, then the $3-4 is too high. You can even produce hydrogen at half a dollar per kg or $1 per kg. Just your capex amortization comes into play. So in that kind of scenario, you want to make best use of a future grid system when you are kind of predicting when your renewable energy pricing will kind of fall negative, and plan, let's say, your hydrogen production in tandem, right? And thereby reduce your cost also from that perspective. So in a number of these aspects, I mean, AI plays a very important role on the production side, specifically talking about green hydrogen of using electrolysis. Over to you, Sanjay. You can continue with the next, and then I'll
Thanks,
intervene
Santosh.
soon.
That was quite comprehensive and also covered a few aspects of storage as well. And production really has to be very, very dynamic. Again, I will remind that this $1, 1 kilo objective is a real objective, as real as using ultimately hydrogen for energy transition or climate change. So, anything which helps us in keeping these things dynamic will have a direct impact of cost. When to produce it, how much to produce it, and then working back forward and backward in terms of if it is getting blended, it is getting converted to ammonia, is it going into fuel cells? So all that decision making on a very dynamic basis would help. And Santosh has explained the interchangeability with other renewable energies. So in storage, again there is the same. So while this is happening, I'll keep on speaking that in storage, really how we want to store and how much to store, whether in liquid form, whether in gas form, whether in form of electricity, which is converted, very essential for cost optimization. So it has to be dynamic, it has to be predictive, and it has to be almost in a way which maximizes the availability in terms of hydrogen for conversion into any other product, but in an optimal way. So storage, it again plays a very dynamic role. And in distribution, uh, it I don't even have to talk about distribution, how much AI has already achieved in the last 5 7 years, from Coca-Cola to supply of, whether you get your milk delivered through from a e-commerce vendor, your food. AI has revolutionized the cost part, and it has it can today predict how many biryanis will get ordered when in what season. So the man on the bike and the kitchen, central kitchens, are already primed. Sorry, I'm talking of biryani just to break the monotony of hydrogen. Maybe one day biryani will get cooked on hydrogen stoves or blended CNG, which is already happening with CBM and hydrogen. But the idea is that the power of AI has already transformed our distribution costs and our distribution network, whether it is supply chain optimization or network planning or demand forecasting. I mean, demand forecasting is bizarre. I mean, it's so accurate. We think human beings are human beings, and they may like this thing now and they may not like this thing now, but it can exactly predict today what will be required one. So much so that the old incident now seems not a fairy tale but a prediction of the future, that there was this sitcom thing in one of the Western media, and suddenly the grid used to buckle as soon as the advertising break used to happen. And the only thing which used to happen was that people used to just get up and on their electric kettles for a cup of tea. And there were so many millions of electric kettles. So they played around, they created the grid facility around that. The advertisement was exactly on when additional capacity was available. So, and this was 20 years ago. So just imagine today what is possible. So AI in terms of network planning is going to benefit actually from what has already been achieved through other distribution chain, and how it has been mastered. The distribution part. O&M, one can't even think about without AI, because ultimately the dream is to have a unmanned hydrogen facility, because again the cost angle. It may sound a little revolutionary, but that's the goal. If it's new, if we are talking of a driverless car, then it has to be an unmanned facility. and but that will require a very very advanced level of AI, an AI which can intervene with the right solutions on its own, very accurate down to the last decimal point operational parameters, strong predictive maintenance with recall. And all this can only be planned at the construction stage. And that's where the beauty of AI comes in. If you are doing your design and construction from a AI perspective controlled O&M model, then the entire thing is possible. But to presume that we would use AI in a particular project where at the design stage and the construction stage, AI was not used or it was not planned that AI will maintain it, then it may be even more expensive uh, to to actually implement AI in an existing operating environment. And of course, inspection and detection is at the heart of it. That today the drones are observing better cracks under the bridges or even checking railway tracks. And the beauty is not that they're able to do it in real time. The beauty is that they can take calls in terms of where intervention is required and what intervention is required. So if it can be done in remote assets, if we have platforms which we can do that, then certainly hydrogen should get benefited there economically, where the inspection and detection based O&M is done by AI. And I'm sure that Santosh will come in wherever he has a real life example or a particular offering he may have done in any of the areas I'm talking about. And of course,
Sure.
Santosh.
Yeah, maybe we can add a little bit on that, right? So if you look at operations and maintenance, and one of the places where where we kind of very closely work with is hydrogen fuel cells, right? And when hydrogen fuel cells are, slightly complex devices where you have both, the process dynamics as well as a lot of mechanical parameters, electronics, electrochemical, everything kind of going on together in a very compact device, right? And it's been mastered over a long period of time. But what is becoming more and more important is for a hydrogen fuel cell, let's say, to compete with any of the available technologies, is any of the incumbent technologies, is to have a very long lifetime, right? And what impacts the lifetime is, of course, partially on the design side, right? What kind of materials you use, what kind of catalyst you use, but then a way more on the operation side, right? On what kind of degradation mechanisms kick in at what point. So one of the activities which is happening there, in fact, in Germany, Fraunhofer has been very busy with some pilot projects, is to use basically embedded AI in actual fuel cell deployment. So when I say embedded AI, this is like system on basically system which is not connected to the cloud or internet. It's an embedded AI device on your fuel cell equipment itself, right? Where you do not need any external data. What it does is it analyzes each and every parameter of your fuel cell operation. Right from the feed of the feed on the hydrogen side to your let's say the coolant side, the air side. So all the process parameters as well as the electrical parameters. And what it does is it uses that to predict any let's say degradation mechanism which is kicked in, right? And kind of and link that. First of all, there's a prediction of, let's say, that the stack is degrading, or there's a higher microvolt per second being observed at any given point of time, or a period of half an hour or 1 hour or a day or a week, right? And then it correlates it very quickly to the root cause, right? The root cause could be on the feed side, root cause could be a let's say a malfunctioning sensor, it could be, let's say, something on the catalyst side itself. There's a real degradation let's say happening because potentially the catalyst is old or it has sintered away. So a number of these things can happen, right? From on the fuel cell side. So once it kind of diagnoses that, it acts. It's actually acting either on its own to rectify it if it is rectifiable, right? Kind of adjusting the flow rates, or adjusting it, or informing the control system what it needs to do, or it alerts, of course, the maintenance team to really take a measured call that in the next maintenance cycle they need to replace or inspect certain aspects of it. So and why and say to a certain extent maintenance is also already done in a lot of these process plants, right? But then that is very slow and long term, right? I mean, you have in refineries, you have turnarounds once in 4 years, or in certain units once in 2 years and once in 6 years. And that's when inspectors would go in and inspect everything, and then let's say it takes 2 months or 3 months for the turnaround to happen. So it's all very slow process, and it works for that industry, right, for whatever reasons. But then here, I mean, when you need to operate that fuel cell for critical applications like data centers, for backup power, for microgrids, right, or even for vehicle applications, I mean, you do not really, you cannot wait for 2 years or 3 years to do that, right? I mean, you need to understand it fast, and that's where some of these predictive kind of models are being kind of implemented. In fact, I mean, it's not only R&D, but it's actually being implemented in some of the designs and some of the units, which is I mean, which is pretty important and pretty cool actually.
Thanks, Santosh. And when you were talking about use of fuel cells in very critical areas, one of the two or three critical areas uh, which sort of happened to me just now, and I just imagined the horror in case this predictive maintenance is not there, is where there are AI controlling what will be our defense response in terms of launch of missiles, etc., or detection of incoming missiles, or space technologies, or things which have to fire at a particular time, like fire extinguishers, etc. If the safety systems which must operate at a critical time, and they need to be backed by alternative fuels to make sure that one of the things work. And the biggest failure where back to back things did not work was Fukushima, which the world hasn't forgotten and is not unlikely to forget for many more decades. So, how reliable the fuel cells or the energy technologies has to be in certain critical areas, including in medicine, for example, and all, where all the battery backups or alternative backups are going to be there. So a very pertinent point. And we have to, since we are coming to the closure, we start looking at the commercial side of it, which pays it for all. And of course, the five great advantages of AI, like I would consider AI to be the fintech part of the energy. That much how reliable it has to be. When you do your UPI payment or whatever, or your internet banking, it has to, sometimes it asks you a security question and sometimes it doesn't. So there is some AI working there. The same thing, of course, has to happen in commercial, where whether it is production credit, your data, real time data, whether it is storage, transportation, production, and its end use. The same hydrogen could be blue, gray, green, turquoise. One has to be very careful. So end use, or the way it is produced, everything has to be tracked. It can't be. It almost has to be biometric in terms of uh, the various stages, the molecule pras. It gets blended with anything. How much of it is was hydrogen, how much of it was carbon. Everything has to be tracked. And of course, the controls, auditing, and reporting. I think that for an investor who's investing in green business, he or she really needs to know what happened in terms of the relationship between $1 and one molecule of that. So I think AI is quite capable of that. It makes it easy as a UPI payment, which can tell you everything, the entire commercial chain of the commodity can be best monitored, and it will come with huge regulatory and reporting responsibility which is already there in terms of I've been in a committee where uh, we were uh, we were responsible for determining the parameters, whether it was explosives, whether it was safety and other things for a sort of a EV chain, and in which multi-fuel for electrical generation is going to be used in retail stations. And the level of reporting which will get required for that is not humanly possible at all. So AI is there at the right time when hydrogen is to be implemented, or renewables mix has to be used, and a lot of systems are going to be hybrid for energy transition. So compliances is something which AI can do very well in terms of this thing. And the good thing is that AI is already being used for compliances. There will be a different level of complexity and customization for hydrogen, but those platforms, like other platforms, are available. And of course, there is a lot of compliance on the risk pass, also carbon traceability and certification. Uh, there are some very complex areas like underground carbon sequestration and other things which are very advanced topics, and could easily fall prey to uh, on one hand leakages, etc., on the other hand misreporting. So we will need a neutral master like an AI to be able to manage that, which is tamper proof in terms of and accessible by all stakeholders. So there is going to be huge opportunities in terms of commercial. And the other beauty is that unlike the struggle for getting export benefits and production linked benefits, which has plagued the economy for more than 3 to 4 decades in various economies in various countries, because of bags of paper being required, officials being informed, because it can operate in a fintech environment. Any carbon credits, trade, or benefits, or reporting, or compliances can happen in a self-automated manner. So, whatever I'm saying may sound easy, but very difficult to do. But once achieved, I think then it is quite smooth sailing. But the fact that it is possible is quite reassuring. And of course, there is a full process when we talk of commerciality, whether you need to check viability or feasibility of a particular project under various policy environment, in various policy mix environment, where import, export versus local, domestic, in leapfrog or innovative environments where you convert waste, another sort of a incentivized area, directly into hydrogen. So this would require very complex simulation. So, but under a given policy on various ecosystems. So today, for investment optimization, I am sure that we have some of the people who have dialed in will travel in their lifetime to Mars, or will have that opportunity. It should be possible in the next 2 to 3 decades, and that those 2 to 3 decades are for will play a major role in terms of climate change also, and hydrogen technologies. So given that today an investment horizon is of 10 to 15 years, it is very important that we use AI for a scenario planning, or a simulation of various policy regimes, of how long we expect the incentives to be there, how long we expect the regime to be supportive of this. And for that, there will be some how what trends do we have in terms of technology reducing the cost of various inputs over a period of time. We have the entire data of solar and wind and other non-conventional energy resources, and it is very easy for us to predict which way this will go on. So much so that whatever predictions were made in 24 have been more or less realized. But of course, there is a sad story of it, not a happy story. That if people who were getting into this in 22 and 23 had done this policy simulation and impact analysis, where it clearly said that the time for this is going to be 27, 28. There is a lot of companies who went into this too fast and too big and have gone bust doing that. And it is not something which hydrogen is responsible. It is responsible for ignoring the policy simulation and impact analysis, which was done in 22, 23, 24, but was not believed, and people became bullish more than it was required to do so at that time. So if I could skip everything else and just say, okay, all that is very good. What as a professional I need to do? Okay, all the gyan is good. Uh, One can do a course. One can know about technologies. One can do everything. But what are those one or two or three steps besides educating myself, beside becoming more AI conscious, beside looking at hydrogen, beside looking at energy transition, beside looking at portfolios which deals with renewable policy? What should I do? I think our recommendation from an organization who already got 2,500 people trained and we derive on their experiences. Step one is that we should look at the customizable gaps through AI. There is already off the shelf a lot of stuff available. There are professionals like Santosh and his companies and many others, and they may not I wouldn't call may not, because that's overstating this thing. Easiest for them, I would say, easiest for us and the people who have the knowledge is to see that there is already something available in distribution or production or transportation or O&M. How do we customize it for our hydrogen business? So that's the first thing, which is a no-brainer. That this is the easy step which gets us to use AI easily. There are design stuff available, very advanced design stuff available. All we need to do is make it customizable to our need if we are designing to the thing. Step two would be look at customization of off the shelf offering. There are hydrogen business specific offerings available, like the list I shared with the everyone, and we need to see, okay, this is available, how does it fit in with my hydrogen project or my involvement with the hydrogen. And step three would be that if I'm starting thinking of starting something new, then perhaps whether in R&D, whether in evaluating viability or feasibility or various policy regimes, how would a particular viability would do, is to start infusing AI right there and then. One should not wait that I will handle it just like any other project in terms of finding a PMC, finding a design agency. But I see that, can AI tell me how is it different from other things and how in the future it is likely to sort of play out in various permutations and combinations. So these are the three sort of commonsensical, I would say, recommendation we would have. Guru, Santosh, would you like to add anything in terms of simple steps for people who have dialed in to handle AI?
No, sure. I mean, I think, see, the first part is to, I mean, try to understand what kind of data do you deal with on a day-to-day basis, right? I mean, whether let's say, a large set of data for your design side, which you are kind of using to optimize your certain design, or is it a fair set of data for your construction, right? I mean, what Sanjay already talked about in terms of project management, or in terms of training and in terms of O&M, right? So where is that data coming from, right? I mean, and what is it that you can do with that data? So start thinking about it in terms of that to begin with, because data is going to be key for AI, right? I mean, whether you are going to train your models with your own data, or you are going to use existing data to train models which on AI which you are going to use, right? So that is going to be critical. Start asking yourself that question, right? Second thing is, I mean, when you are basically keep on the lookout for solutions. I mean, you might think that, what, AI has been just ChatGPT is there for just past 2 years. It's still, not able to answer any basic questions. How is it going to solve such complex problems? But don't underestimate the power. So look out for solutions. I mean, talk to people who are actually embedding this in their design and their operations in large scale commercial plant, right? So we are not talking about R&D anymore. We're talking about commercial solutions which exist today where AI is being used. So ask and seek out for those opportunities, and seek out for those experts who can guide you in your specific stage, right? I mean, where exactly AI can be used in your, let's say, in your application. And the last one I would say is, I mean, definitely to kind of train yourself with the latest tools which are available. I mean, one of them is, of course, ISD scores, but then also several other tools which are already present in AI. Keep experimenting with those and see how you can make your basically kind of tasks more optimized and easier when you're using AI in your day-to-day practice. So that is something which I would advise. So, like, across all these aspects, data, availability, and look out for tools, and then using AI on a day-to-day basis to save your own time. So I think that would be the area which I would recommend. Yeah.
Great, Gurunath. With this, we reach our Q&A section, and I have just been handed over two or three questions. I will see how much time do we have. The first question, and Santosh, if you could answer that, is I think we did try to do that during the thing, but maybe you could give a more pointed answer. What are the financial implications of AI in terms of cost of production?
Yeah, so in terms of cost of production, right? I mean, I'll split into two stages, right? I mean, one of them is while you are designing your plant itself. I mean, let's talk about green hydrogen again using electrolysis. What is the combination, or what is the best configuration of renewable energy which you are going to use? And that is something which you can use a lot of predictive AI algorithms, which also takes into account how the climate would change, right? I mean, because you're designing these plants for over the next 25 years, you cannot assume that your solar radiation or the wind velocities, and let's say the dust which accumulates on solar panels will remain the same for the next 20-25 years. You need to take into account the changing weather patterns as well. So take that into consideration to minimize your electrolyzer size, minimize your storage size, and optimize on how much renewable energy you're taking in. That's one. But then the second, which is I would say even more important than the first, is how you integrate that into operations, right? I mean, how you ensure that let's say you ensure that you have AI layers installed as part of your control system, as part of your energy management systems, which would tell your electrolyzer when to ramp up, when to ramp down, looking at the weather patterns, looking at the cloud cover, looking at, let's say, the energy generation over time. So when you do this, you would realize that a pattern, I mean, not, let's say, a plant which uses AI versus who does not use AI, you will actually end up producing at least 15 to 20% additional hydrogen over an annual basis, right? I mean, let's say just by using AI and let's say maximizing your hydrogen production. So when you do that, 15-20% is, let's say, it's direct saving on your cost, right, on a day-to-day basis. So these two are the bigger headline items, but there are definitely a lot more. I mean, in terms of cost reduction, both as Sanjay already mentioned about how you simulate certain policy measures, right? How the regulatory effects might change over time, and hence you make your plant flexible, or how you kind of ensure that your plant is, let me put it this way, ready and de-risked for any future compliance which might go, let's say, on both sides, right, upside and downside? You are not making it too tight and too rigid that, let's say, you are out of the money 5 years from now or 10 years from now, right? So how are you making your kind of business models flexible as well, both in terms of your offtake contracts as well as in terms of your renewable energy purchase contracts? So across these aspects, you can save the cost significantly if you are a developer setting up hydrogen production facilities. Yeah.
Thank you. Uh, I wish I could take more questions, but I can't. But I do assure participants that whatever questions are there, it will be analyzed. And when we put this presentation on the website of IESD, we would have 2 3 line answers for each questions which you have asked. I was going through some of the comments. A lot of good suggestions have come. Some invitations have come. So thank you for that, and thank you for your time. I would like to add just one last point on the financial implication part, is that at a Giga Valley scale, today, though it is not confirmed publicly, when you are using the Giga Valley model of pump up hydro, wind, solar, fuel cell, everything, the cost is already under $1. I mean, it may sound a little surprising, but at which means that at a particular break even scale, the cost of the hydrogen at the point of supply or distribution is already, as per a given model, though these Giga Valley projects in India, which is being done by very large groups, are still in construction stage, with testing having happened of 1 or 2 components of that. But on paper it appears, and I cannot say it with surety, so please take it with a pinch of salt, but at what the mathematical calculations on paper look like, that if you take into account all the effort which has been made in terms of the non-computable components, which is like land and other things, it's already financially there, and AI has played a very important role in that. It's very visible. For example, the capacities which have been chosen, the combinations which have been chosen, the level of technology which was bet upon, that I have gone ahead and chosen level 5 technology while it is 2 and 3 being sold. That by the time that thing will come to me, it will be level 5 with my specifications. So, with all that, it's very heartening to note that but of course, India being a hungry market for energy, government being very supportive, so uh, this was not an advantage. Emerging economies have certain advantages that they can learn from the world, and then they're already hungry and they can do a lot of things at a very different scale. For example, we are abundant in solar power, so our ability to overproduce during the day, store in the fuel cells, and during the night, and if we are doing it on the coast, use wind energy as well. So more or less at a scale, the financial implication is already proven of AI, including the cost of hydrogen, uh, as one would believe it. I mean, if I'm asked to write a paper on it, I may be about 3 months away from it. But from the look at the market and the investment which is going, the confidence which the shareholders are putting in allowing that money to be invested, that part is quite clear. So just wanted to make sure that I add the financial implication aspect in Guru Nath's answer. So from my side, thanks a lot, and I will make sure that the presentations or the recordings, whichever ISD decides, is available in our courseware and in our websites, which you could download. And the questions get answered in the next 2 3 days. And when this presentation comes on the website, you could also see what other people asked and what we have replied. Over to you for closing, Manjuji.
Thank you everybody for attending, and attending the webinar, and the video will be uploaded on our website. All the question and answers will be uploaded on the website. So kindly do visit our website. And as informed earlier, that our program is already updated with a chapter on AI and hydrogen. So you can register for the program also. Thank you everybody for joining. Thank you so much.